everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. It is the first live stream of the week, and even though I've made today's live stream open to subscribers, I'm trying to have one subscriber play stream a month at least. It's the PlayStation presentation right now. Sorry, this is when I could go live. So anyway, I'm going to gift 5 memberships. So hold on. I gift 5 memberships every week to match everybody else's generosity. There we go. Hooray! All right. So we have a very interesting situation going on here. With the, what's going on with Marvel, I think the stream is moving very quickly. That's right, the chat. Because it's open to subscribers today. It is on a delay, but I'm glad that so many people want to chat. So all you do is hit that subscribe button, and then you can come right on in to the chat. So we're going to keep we're going to have the 3 stories of the day, 3 stories, and then at the very end, as always, I'll be doing a 10-minute Ask Me Anything. So yeah, let's go right into story number 1. Hold on, story number 1. Boop. Oh, it's got a rotten tomato. Thanks, Donner. A rotten tomato for Captain America 4. It's pretty bleak. It started out even lower. Thank you, Wes. It started out, in fact, even lower in the 40s, but it's moved its way up to in the 50th, and it can't be a fresh tomato until it has a 6 in front of it, and that's a long way to go. 8 points. And as we all know, that once, there's blood in the water, it's very hard to turn things around. So let's take a look at some of the recent, we're going to take a look, we're just looking at this as a number. We're like, oh my God, but let's look at it with some perspective as to, what's going on here, past scores for similar movies, and how it turned out for them. All right, so yeah, 52% is the score out of the gate. Somebody said now it's down to 48. It's going to move over the next few days. It'll particularly, someone's saying it's a 53, so it's all over the place. I think that it's going to move substantially once the movie hits American theaters, because this is the first wave of press that gets to see it at a press screening. But there are a lot of Rotten Tomatoes critics these days. This is only a little over 100 reviews. And like the Rotten Tomatoes score for very big films, it can be like hundreds and hundreds of reviewers. So there's a lot of reviewers still left to weigh in, and so we'll see which way this breaks. So, victim of its own success. Part of me feels that might be a little bit of the issue. Let's see here. I forgot to load this picture. Avengers Endgame. One of the most highest grossing films of all time. The culmination of 10 years, a decade of movies. And the way everything tied together was really beautiful. It was incredible. It was one of the great, I think we all still remember what it was like going to see that movie that weekend. It was just iconic. Some of you, for some reason, like Infinity War better. I don't understand you. But Avengers Endgame was just peak MCU. However, at this point, every time you can't really have a small Marvel movie anymore, because not only is there such a deep bench that, Kevin Feige, people are like, well, what about the character I like? And what about the character that I like? And I like it, I like, and I like. And everybody has different characters that they like. And then also people go, well, how can this be happening and these other characters don't weigh in? That's what happens when you expand your universe so quickly. Like even for Thunderbolts, a lot of people are like, where's Spider-Man? Where's Daredevil? This is a New York disaster. Why aren't any of these characters showing up? And I think that's a fair argument. Even with you watch something like Captain America Brave New World and you're like, well, this is a presidential problem. This is something that's going on in the United States. Why wouldn't any superhero that's still around be weighing in on it? Not only does it not make sense, But again, I think people want the spectacle. They want an Avengers level film. Even Captain America movies became de facto Avengers movies. Civil War is basically an Avengers film. But how do you, I think audiences are having a hard time bringing things back down to solo movies. I don't even know, maybe the answer is that Marvel shouldn't be making solo movies anymore. Maybe they should all be team-up films. Maybe they should all be Avengers films, and then the other things go to Disney Plus as smaller adventures. Maybe that's the way to go. But, again, that would really break the system that Kevin Feige built, which was, so many movies a year. I like the chat. Jamie's like, good idea, while Billy says that's a ridiculous idea. Thanks, Choose the Bear. Yes, I saw that. That was very kind of you to make that comment. So I think that's like a little bit of an issue. So that's one thing. All right, then I think it would be foolish not to point out the fact that Disney is really having a difficult time politically. Disney and politics, I think, is just something that go hand in hand at this point. I think they were vilified very effectively. Ron DeSantis played a big part in that in particular. And they've become a very hot topic with certain groups. And those groups, don't want to give up the views. So they just rail and rail and rail against Disney. And I think it's just creating just incredibly intense negativity, just incredibly intense. And that's very, very hard to escape. It's very hard. And I mean, even when you have a film, like I told you, Captain America is not a political film, and I think it's actually quite inclusive, and it does not try to say that it has any agenda whatsoever. I know that Star Platinum's award says it's the pendulum effect. I'm not sure if you guys know about the pendulum effect. The pendulum effect is, something goes to an extreme, and then the reaction eventually is it swings in the other direction to an equal extreme, and then the idea is the pendulum eventually swings and keeps going back and forth till it gets down to the middle. Maybe. I think also another thing that I want to point out is that, social media. Negativity does extremely well on social media. This is something that we've seen that is well documented. And I think that we've seen every major franchise fall to that negativity. It started with Star Wars. Then it moved on to DC. And I have to say, both of them have not escaped it to this day. And for a while, it seemed like Marvel would not fall, that it would escape that fate, but it has not. And some of you are saying, is it comic book fatigue? Maybe but here's the thing. Video games are finding themselves in a very similar situation. And I find myself in a difficult spot. If I say I like something, I get accused of liking everything. But then as soon as I turn around and say I don't like something, I get called a hater. And so it's very difficult, particularly when you're in the business of opinions as I am, to be in this space today. I didn't like the Fantastic Four trailer. I thought it was weak, but then I said I like this, and it's just whiplash, I think all I can do is say my honest opinion and just forge ahead. This is very, very difficult. But yeah, I think thank you, Jamie. But yeah, it's just I think that it's a difficult space, and I do believe but it's interesting. Like Wicked escaped this situation, but Captain America has not. Part of me wonders if it's because where is the large fandom for this? Sam Wilson didn't work as a character in the comics. So what is the safety net for this? There isn't one. Anthony Mackie's not a big star. Harrison Ford has had a hard time for a while now. So you don't really have, your core base to fight for it. Hey, thank you, Dancing Dog 60. So I think that's really tough. Now let's take a look at some other movies. But one thing I wanted to point out is that while everybody gets upset with Disney, okay, they're still doing quite well, which makes it even more confounding. Like you're trying to understand this, but then you look at the 2024 box office, and Disney has the top 3 movies. for all the hate out there and all the anti-Disney, they're still able to have the top 3 films, the only billion-dollar pictures of the year. So you're like, how is this happening? I think that Inside Out 2 and Moana didn't really generate any conversation. And I think Ryan Reynolds, that was before Ryan Reynolds' whole life blew up in front of him, which I find very interesting. But yeah, so, I think even probably Disney doesn't know exactly what to do. They're like, everyone seems to hate us, but yet we keep winning. What do we do? So I think it's difficult. But yeah, so I mean, that to me, I find also very interesting. So what is this box off? What is this Rotten Tomatoes score? What does it potentially mean for how the movie's going to perform, right? So let's take a look at some of the recent situations, okay? So if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores, now the worst Rotten Tomatoes score that Marvel has ever suffered was for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which came out 2 years ago, also at the same time for President's Day weekend. I thought that film was, mediocre. I thought it was okay the first time I watched it. It was hard to rewatch it. It was very difficult to rewatch that movie. It has an 81% audience score, but then of course it really did not perform well at the box office. But I think many of us view Quantumania as when the MCU started to fall apart. The Eternals is not lower, in fact. The Eternals is at 47. It has one more point, thank goodness. But the Eternals also really suffered. I think, leading up through Avengers Endgame, my theory is that through Avengers Endgame, everything was connected. However, because of the explosion of the MCU, nothing's connected anymore. And, you don't feel there are promises. You don't feel like it's all one big story. Things are not followed through on. Easy connections are not made. And I think that's difficult. I think that's one of the biggest problems. All right, so then, hold on, I gotta get back to this. Then, even the Marvels has a better score. Even the Marvels managed to at least stay fresh at 62. And this has a strong audience score as well. Just goes to show you who's motivated to come on here and do this. But yeah, so even the Marvels managed to not have a Rotten Tomato next to it. But I want to point out, because people have a very short memory, that Deadpool and Wolverine had a 78. It went down. It started out, I was just checking my old videos. Hey, Drago in New York City. And Deadpool and Wolverine hit Rotten Tomatoes with an 81, which I found shocking because I thought the movie was so incredible. But yeah, it had a 78. In fact, I believe that that's one of the things that contributed to the popcorn meter, and that's something being certified fresh from an audience perspective to try and combat some of the situations that happens with Rotten Tomato scores. But that's just to remind you that sometimes I think critics have turned on Marvel. For a while, critics were giving Marvel a pass, but I think that they've in fact turned on Marvel. I think they feel that Marvel is formulaic, that it's not great cinema. I don't think they're thinking about what the purpose of Marvel is. And I think that they think that it's hurting the industry. And it is hurting the industry, but not any more than streaming is. I think that, there are many things hurting the industry. I don't think it's fair to pin it all on Marvel. But I do feel that, from comments from Scorsese and Spielberg to, I think, a lot of, critics, I think there is an effort to kill Marvel, to kill it and just strip it, like Evil Stepsisters with Cinderella's dress, so that I think people feel, and this happens a lot, people feel if I kill the thing that's dominating, then that means that I will move ahead and I will be the big star. And that's not true. If people wanted to watch your content, they would. Something else might come in and fill the void. I think video games are poised to do that, video game movies. But I do think that that's what people are thinking. I think that a lot of people in the establishment of Hollywood feel that they're trying to kill Marvel, and I think all comic book movies to a degree, so that Hollywood can move away from this death twirl it's locked in with fans. They're like, let's just free ourselves of that. But the thing is that the industry has never made as much money as it has with fans. And so I think the suits are kind of going to be against that. Now, something that's really interesting, let's go through this again but I want to bring in the cinema scores. Cinema score is really important. Cinema score is, I think, still to this day, the best way to ascertain how a film is going to perform. I'm trying to cook here. I'm sorry I'm missing some of your comments, but don't worry, I'm going to address them at the end of this story. So cinema score can't be gamed. It's spot polling. Unlike political spot polling, it's still effective. And it really gives you an idea of how the general audience feels about a film. So it was quite telling that Quantumania got a B. A B is a very bad cinema score. A B plus or higher, unless you're a horror movie, is really what you need to see. Joker, the first Joker, for instance, got a B plus. So anything that has a B is bad for cinema score. I know a lot of you like to equate it with your own grades, but this is not your grades. This is the cinema score grading system, and you need to be a B plus or higher. All right, so interestingly, then when you go to Eternals, look at that. Eternals also got a B, which I find very interesting. These movies all underperformed box office-wise. And what do you know? What happened with the Marvels? Fascinatingly, also a B. But here's where things switch. Deadpool and Wolverine, while that's not a great a great Rotten Tomatoes score, a cinema score. So the cinema score for Captain America: Brave New World is going to be really a big deal. If it can get a B plus, it's going to maybe be okay. Particularly because there are no movies entering the space for a month. Captain America has an entire month to make money. It could pull a Mufasa, right? Where nobody really sees it up front, but then it just wears you down. It wears you down, and Mufasa is going to get to $700 million, which is incredible. It's one of the top performing movies of 2024, even though it just came out of nowhere. And really, to some degree, people still haven't acknowledged it. So what was the Lion King cinema score? Let me look that up. I should have gotten that. A minus. Mufasa got an A minus. That to me is really interesting. So we got to see the cinema score for Captain America: Brave New World. Cinema score Mystic will come out late Friday, early Saturday morning. And that's going to really tell us how this movie is going to perform. So let's just take a look at the box office to get an idea of what we're dealing with here. So here's the MCU box office. Oh, I couldn't even go. They've made so many movies. All right, look at this. Oh my God, and more to come. So I was able to screen grab all the way through Iron Man 3, which was over 10 years ago. But you want to be able to read this, so let me give you a little bit more of a zoom. Zoom, 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 here I am. Okay, so let's get our arrow. All right, so you can see that for the most part, Marvel's hit a little bit of a wobbly patch here. Woo! But they got back to the $1 billion club with Deadpool and Wolverine. But look at the Marvels. It couldn't even hit 200 million. And Quantumania is right here, and that only got to a little, like around 450, 463. So I think, and then what was the other one? Eternals to 400. So you're looking at a tough time for Cap. I would say based on the performance of these films, if you go by the Rotten Tomatoes score, you're probably looking at a Captain America: Brave New World with around 400 to 500 million. There is some question as to how black talent performs overseas. Wicked got all the way to 700 million, and Ariel the Little Mermaid, I think, is in like the 500 million range. So I think that you could see Captain America hopefully, at the very least with a 5 in front of it. But that would just be a disaster if that's as high as it was able to get. It really needs to end with 700 to 800 million for Marvel to not be just really embarrassed. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp ended at 623. I agree, Chris. This is really, I think, I've said before that Hollywood needs to work harder to protect their talent. Hollywood has tried to, particularly companies like Disney, have tried very hard to diversify their leads, but yet they do not deliver the top-notch films for them. Black Panther, Ryan Coogler is a good example, although Julius Ona, I think, did a nice job directing. I gotta tell you, I saw Captain America, okay, Brave New World. As you've seen from my review, I think it's a good film. I guess I don't like to usually give grades. You know, you can tell how I feel about a movie based on my review, but I would give it a B+. It's not an A or an A minus. I think you have to take points off for some of the issues, which I outline in my review. But I do think it's a B+ movie. I certainly think it's as good as the first Doctor Strange. I certainly think it's as good as the first Thor. And I certainly think it's as good as Winter Soldier, to be honest with you. I mean, the action isn't quite as good, but I think it's a good movie, you know? And I really am surprised that so many people are saying that it's empty, because I think that the best part of it is the emotional core created by Harrison Ford and Carl Lumbly as Isaiah Bradley. So I'm just surprised. I'm very surprised, and I'm curious to see how audiences react to the movie, because I do think it's a good movie. So, I mean, let's see how everybody feels. A lot of people, unfortunately, we know have been rooting for this movie to fail. And Anthony Mackie, unfortunately, gave some of them an excuse with his comments that I think were sloppy, and then were able to be twisted. But it's just really difficult. It's a very difficult situation. And also, I think it depends on the type of moviegoer you are. Some people who just want, you know, like the Marvel candy are going to, and that's perfectly valid, are going to feel that it's disappointing. But I mean, if you can appreciate that it's a take on a Tom Clancy movie, and, you know, you are interested in stories about people in the military, you know, like, I mean, you have to be able to appreciate the film in that way. And I mean, it's a good reminder to put your business hat on. Because CM says, is it better than Black Widow? I think it's much better than Black Widow. Much better than the Black Widow movie, in my opinion. I think it's a lot better than that film. And what did that film make? Black Widow, where's my arrow? Black Widow, ooh, that was during the pandemic. That only got to 379. Oh my God, poor Scarlett Johansson. She just cannot win. But yeah, but that was during the pandemic, and it was on Disney Plus too, as you might recall. Yeah. You know, the Black Widow movie should have been better. I wish this movie was like an A or an A minus, but I still think it's good. It's a B+ film. I like it. I think I would hope you would enjoy it. You know? Tenerife says, who is this Tom Clancy you speak of? Tom Clancy was a really famous political thriller novelist. He created Jack Ryan. He's done like a couple of things that were turned into very popular video games. He wrote almost exclusively about the CIA and the military and all these clandestine situations. And some movies, his most famous films based on his books, actually starred Harrison Ford, which is why it was such a big deal to get Harrison Ford for this movie. Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, stuff like that. And you see, it's all based on opinion. Look at Christian. Christian hated Deadpool and Wolverine, which I don't understand. Deadpool and Wolverine to me was like a religious experience. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on this. I think this movie, I guess my bottom line is that this movie, a lot of what is being said about this movie has an ulterior motive about Marvel or about aspects of what this film promotes, about Disney. And I think that this film, unfortunately, is taking the hit. And that's what's happening. You know, I think that a lot of this has nothing to do with the actual movie. So that's how I feel about it. Thanks, Tyler. All right, you guys want a poll? All right, we'll do a poll. Are you still planning to see Cap 4 in theaters? Yes. This weekend. No, yes. We'll wait for digital. Then we'll wait for Disney Plus. And then not watching. Okay. Adam says, I think that this movie is one most people are waiting for Disney Plus for. All my friends want to see Fantastic Four in theaters, but not this one. I'm not sure why everybody likes Fantastic Four so much. I mean, it's never been successful in any capacity. Oh, Jonathan, you saw it this morning. Yeah, it is playing in some countries already, which is why the review embargo lifted today. Oh, Jose also already saw it. Nightfall wants to point out that this is the MCU's 4th Rotten Tomato score. All posts. I think it's only the 3rd. Where are you getting the 4th from? Unless you're counting shows. They've only got Quantumania and Eternals, and now this. See, a lot of you are, oh, Secret Invasion, but that's not a movie. Secret Invasion is awful. Truly awful. Secret Invasion, one of the worst things ever made. Rodney says the box office will be telling not just how this does, but how the upcoming Snow White will do. I don't think that's fair to package this with Snow White. I don't think this is like Snow White at all, particularly having seen the film. I think, although real world problems outside of the film, I do think, there were protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters at the premiere last night in Hollywood. And that is something you have not seen before. I mean, I'm sure Bob Iger is probably like, what's happening to me? What has happened? And that's because of the character, the actress there, for the Israeli character. Yara, Shang-Chi came out during the pandemic though. So that you can't count the Shang-Chi situation. Merlin says, my dad took me to an early screening. I admit we were both a little disappointed. Think I could have just waited to watch at home. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, I had a good time. It's why do you go to a Marvel movie? Also, do you like going to theaters? I really like going to theaters. I have a good time. I like being at the multiplex. I like making an evening out or afternoon out of it. I like getting the snacks. I like sitting in the premium theater. But if you're just as happy at home, and that's, I think, maybe a new problem for I think the bar has been raised as to what a movie needs to accomplish to be theater worthy, because your home experience is so nice. Jay Garcia is upset about the connection to Israel. Hey, Wanda's attorney says, was it a mistake to center the movie around Incredible Hulk and Eternals, 2 of Marvel's most hated projects? It has nothing to do with Eternals, really. I mean, that island is there for like 2 seconds in the background. Chico, I think that Captain America, it's impossible to tell how much it needs to make because nobody can know for sure what the box office what the budget actually is. But as I said, I think that it needs to get around $700 million for it not to be an embarrassment for Marvel. Oh, CM, it's much better than Thor 2. Drago says that they're predicting snowstorms in New York City this weekend. Do studios consider that for a low opening weekend? Well, I guess the question is, where would Cap 4 best perform? There's strong movie going across the country, so it might affect some movie. Although people like to go to movie theaters when it's bad weather, so that could help, unless it's just not too bad. Oh, Jonathan, you work at Regal. Oh, you watched it early. That must have been fun. I'm glad you get some perks. Hey, Seuss, is Brave New World really my 1000th movie review? I guess maybe is that how many videos are in the playlist? That would be amazing. I'll have to see if that's true. Merlin says that you loved watching the Marvels at the theater. Well, see, yeah. But I mean, a lot of people don't like the Marvels, Merlin. So, it's very hard. I guess that's part of the fractured audience kind of a situation. Let me close this poll. Okay. I think Harrison Ford is wonderful in the movie. Somebody just asked me about, Jordan says, is Harrison Ford better than William Hurt? It's a better role. It's better written. So are you still planning to see Captain America 4 in theaters? 53% of you said yes. That's promising. 21% of you do not plan to watch the film at any point. I mean, that's just really, you don't like Disney right now, because like you're not even going to watch it on Disney Plus for free. Although I don't see myself watching Mufasa. I mean, you just might not be at all interested. You know, you're like, I'm just not interested. 17% we're waiting for Disney Plus, and 7% will wait for digital. So, I mean, that's not just absolutely a devastating numbers, but it's not great. Fahad says, but Grace, why not include an Israeli character? Well, Fahad, I mean, you have to know what's going on in the world right now, right? You know, that it's just very divisive, and, you know, this is supposed to, you know, entertainment is supposed to be for escapism. And, you know, I think that things that are happening right now are really tough. And then Bing Bong says, I just don't care for how they marketed Red Hulk. He's barely in the movie, but the marketing thought he would be more involved. I don't think that's fair. I think, you know, aren't you interested in the emotional journey of President Ross? I am. Harrison Ford made me care a lot. So, you know, like, I think that's a really important question, and that's something that maybe, you know, the filmmakers should have thought of. They should have been like, you know, like, this interests us, but what is the audience looking for out of a Marvel movie? And that's part of the problem with when you have these big Avengers films. How do you dial it back down? I mean, there was very little action in Doctor Strange. You know, think about a movie like Wonder Woman or Aquaman. I mean, this is very similar, you know, in terms of the scope, but people just are so upset. It seems unfair in some ways. Okay, all right. Oh, Jose agrees that all the actors were amazing. They really are. As I said in my review, the best thing in the movie is the acting. I mean, it's just incredible. It's really strong acting. All right, let's go to the next story of the day. Hey, Jack Dent in Washington, D.C. All righty. Next story. Boop. All right, so Universal. I don't know what's going on over there, but Universal really has to fix their trailer situation. They have really made a mess of things over there. So first off, they have policies that have made it impossible for anyone to really cover their trailers. As you've seen, hardly anybody reacts to Universal trailers. And, you know, if I want to do a breakdown of a Universal trailer, unless I want to do it for free, I can only do it with screen grabs, as I had to do for the recent Jurassic World breakdown. You know, I couldn't, you know, I can't even do like a scrubbing with no sound. Okay? That's right, Mystic. HBO Max and Paramount have the same policies. And I think it, you know, so far it really hasn't hurt I mean, Universal movies still make a lot of money. You know, you don't see a lot of discussion leading up to them. Now, if it wasn't the day that the Captain America review embargo had lifted, I probably would have still reacted to this trailer, and I would have done a breakdown. But I just didn't have the time because now I'm in Captain America mode. And so that's one of the reasons it was stupid to release the trailer today. I mean, I guess maybe they want to put it in front of Captain America Brave New World, which makes a lot of sense actually, because they're both, I think, boy-oriented films. I mean, it was, I think, bad timing on Universal's part. Then even more so, for some reason, Universal has a new drop time that they really like, which is 8 in the morning. 8 in the morning, 5 a.m. Pacific, is for some reason when Universal has decided they like to now drop trailers, which is very upsetting and annoying to me. You know, usually it's 9, 10, or noon. That's the time that you usually drop trailers. You can see it was very frustrating when Fantastic Four decided to drop at a ridiculous time. But 8 a.m., and they're not even dropping them during morning shows. It's not like these shows are coming, it's not like Good Morning, I guess maybe these are debuting on Good Morning America? Is that, who's Good Morning America? That's Disney. No, the Today Show. Universal's Today Show. Are these trailers debuting on the Today Show? I'm not seeing any coverage of that. So it's like absolutely ridiculous. You know, this trailer should have dropped a different day at noon or at 11 or even at 9 a.m. this morning before. I mean, it never trended. It never trended, which I think is really bad for that. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. So, but let's talk about the trailer because I was interested in it. Now, of course, Universal, and it was interesting to see the DreamWorks logo in front of a live action movie. I thought that was very, very interesting that's what, that was a new development. I was like, you go DreamWorks. So anyway, obviously Universal is trying to compete with Disney live action remakes. And here are some of the most successful ones that Disney has made. Just like everything else in the world in Hollywood, this was going really well for a long time. And now everybody hates it. People loved Jungle Book. They loved Beauty and the Beast. They loved Cinderella. They loved Aladdin. Everybody was having a good time. And now everybody just think this stuff's garbage. They can't stand it. So it's like really frustrating. You're like, we can't have anything. Some of these obviously didn't work out, but I don't think we need to just get rid of live action remakes. It's interesting. Luke just says it's too much. Maybe that's the problem, that Hollywood loves to run stuff into the ground. Maybe there should only be one Marvel movie a year. Deadpool and Wolverine was the only Marvel movie to release last year. Maybe there should only be one Marvel movie a year. Maybe they should only have a live action remake every other year or every few years. And they should come up with other ideas for movies, perhaps. But yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe you hit the nail on the head there, Luke. People just feel like they just can't take a break. It's too much. But one thing that I think is pivotal about the live action remakes from Disney is that in every single instance, they changed the story. They added to it and they enriched it. And I think they aged it up a little bit for an older audience. And they brought a new perspective to it. And I think that was really nice. However, I think what's really surprising a lot of people about Universal's is that it seems to be a shot-for-shot, line-by-line remake of the animated movie. And so people are like, well, why would I watch this if it is exactly the same movie? There's no new scenes, there's no new characters, there's no new elements to discover when you watch the movie. And I think that's a valid concern because I think I saw some comments with people being like, I've already watched this movie 15 years ago and it was great. So I think that's something some of you are bringing up The Lion King, like Matt and Oliver, and that's a pretty good example. The Lion King, when I watched The Lion King, the 2019 live action version, I felt that the people who were the original animation team should get participation because Jon Favreau was copying exactly their shots. And you're like, but you didn't even add anything to this. And I think that's really bad. I don't know how a filmmaker can live with themselves, but here it's the exact same filmmaker. Dean DeBlois was brought on to do his own project. So he's doing the exact same thing again. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe if you bring in someone new, they have a new perspective. Whereas Dean DeBlois is like, I love what I originally did, so I'm just going to do it again. And you're like, well, why wouldn't you just, well, I think maybe it would have been better to bring somebody else in. I'm glad you agree, Shahar. Then, something else that I find sort of weird is that Toothless still looks like a cartoon, but now he's next to real people. Maybe because he's going to be next to real people. That's right, he does, Toothless and Stitch have the same designer, Chris Sanders, and they look very similar. And they're, in fact, hitting theaters the exact same summer, although Stitch will come first. But and we'll see how Stitch looks next to humans. We haven't really seen him next to humans fully yet. But it weirds me out that Toothless looks exactly the way he did in the animation. And I'm like, why would a dragon look like that? He looks like he walked out of a cartoon. It's really bizarre. You think he'd look a little more dragony. So that's another thing that I think is an issue. Stitch looks really, and that's interesting, Dory, that you think Stitch looks better. I would agree. What's interesting to me about Stitch is that they really were able to make him move very much like an animal, like an angry animal, like a badger or a dog, or, if anyone's had to wrestle an animal, they know what it's like. And I think that they've managed to replicate those mannerisms extremely well in the live action version of Stitch. Like when he was running around the football field for the Super Bowl, he looked really real. I was like, that's exactly how I think he would move. But here, it's so much like the animation that to me, I think it's a little bit weird. But let's see how, we'll see how it performs. I think the fact that it didn't trend today for the first time made me feel that maybe it wouldn't do particularly well. I'm not saying it's going to flop, but I don't think it's going to be the billion-dollar picture that perhaps Universal is betting on, because that's why they're doing it, because so many of the Disney live-action remakes did make $1 billion, or like certainly quite a bit. And I think here you might have a situation where maybe it's going to be, I don't know, six, maybe like the recent Little Mermaid, unfortunately, with around like 600. That's funny that both of you didn't, Ethan and Lippy didn't even watch the trailer. Ethan didn't bother to watch it, and Lippy didn't even know it was released. See, that's a big problem with the way they released this trailer. I mean, it was just such a huge mistake the way this trailer was released today. Too early in the morning, bad policy, and that they can't get any coverage of it. Same day as Captain America. Look, Vitor didn't know about it either. That's incredible. Yeah, that's why you want people to react and break down to your trailer. I think it's important, and sometimes I think the studios don't recognize the service that is provided for free by YouTube channels and outlets. Okay. I guess we'll do a poll. I know you guys like a poll. Are you planning to see How to Train Your Dragon live action in theaters? We'll do just like for Cap. Yes. We'll wait for digital. We'll wait for streaming, which would be Peacock. We'll wait for Peacock. And then, nope. It will eventually go to Netflix, by the way. Thank you, Adam Sphere. And I think it'll do extremely well on Netflix, where they have, obviously, the How to Train Your Dragon series. By the way, I mean, anyone could technically chat today. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button. Oh, that's funny, Tenerife. Toothless, Dracarys. That's right. You know, this could have been like kids' Game of Thrones, but they just went, I think, overly cartoonish. Also, I have to say, personally, it really bothers me that Hiccup is so cool. He's supposed to be a big old nerd who becomes cool. But I'm like, you can't just give yourself a bad hairstyle and claim that you're nerdy. I mean, I find that casting really bad. It bothers me immensely. He's like, I'm unpopular and don't have any athletic ability. And I'm like, I can see you, and I can see that both of those things are not true. You look like a cool kid, and you look like you're pretty good at sports. Oh, thank you, your boy. Says, I think maybe the shot-for-shot remakes seem to do better. Lion King is the most successful money-wise, whereas Mulan seems to be hated because they changed so much. Well, they took out the musical aspect, I think, which was a big mistake. Ulysses, you're always asking me to say hi to you, but I've said hi to you many times by now. Oh, Notibus, you've never seen the animated movies? They're great. They're surprisingly sophisticated. Look at all of you saying Andrew Garfield's too hot to be Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield's like, I'm glad somebody likes me. Poor Andrew Garfield. That's funny, Jesse. Yes, you know, we demand representation. Oh, Queer Shirt, congrats on your duck. My mother grew up with a pet duck. Great pet. They make great pets, particularly if they imprint on you. And then Adam Sphere says, House of the Dragon made me want to see as much dragon riding as I can, so I'm all in. I mean, I think the sequences will probably be pretty cool. They're going to be in IMAX and 3D, but so are the animated ones. And I agree, Dory. Having Gerard Butler back is by far and away the best thing. Jimmy, I'm excited about Epic Universe. They just released the food that they're going to have there. It's some of the most stunning food I've ever seen. Like, I wasn't sure I wanted to even go to How to Train Your Dragon Land because it looked too young for me. I was like, that looks like it's for kids, like little kids. And then I saw the food that they have there, and I was like, all right, I'll go there. They have like a chocolate mousse fish, orange fish that's served on top of cereal, and I was like, that looks amazing. Wes says, I find it really strange that How to Train Your Dragon is considered by Universal to be as popular as Harry Potter and Super Mario. But I think it is. I think it really is. but I think they might have botched this live action version. That's funny, Paulo. Yeah, I like that anytime anybody has anything done now, everybody accuses them of going to Turkey. Turkey's done a great job rebranding itself. Let's see here. So, are you planning to see How to Train Your Dragon live action in theaters? 39% no. Oh my God. The majority of you no? Oh my God. 35% yes. Just 35. It's doing better than, Cap's doing better than this movie, thank goodness. Disney's like, whoo, we're not that bad off. Let's see here. 12% will wait for Peacock and 12% will wait for digital. Oh my God. Looks like you guys are saving your money. Looks like you guys are saving your money for other summer movies. Unless you're AMC A-list. Then you can see anything you want. It's great. That's incredible. That's really scary. My goodness. All right, let's get on to the next story of the day. Let's say bad stuff about Jennifer Lawrence. Boom, baby. All right, so there was a story going around that Ariana Grande has been maybe tentatively, they're talking to her about making a movie with Jennifer Lawrence. And so I want to talk about how I think that's a horrible idea. Okay, so let's talk about Ariana Grande's career. Ariana Grande is at a crucial point in her career. She's got to be really careful. I don't think her recent statement was very good, where she said that being a pop star was like playing a role. I was like, don't pull Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga said that she'd rather be an actress than a singer, and she jinxed herself. I still to this day remember when she said it, and I was like, I wish she hadn't said that. I wish someone had told you not to say that. And as soon as Ariana said this, I was like, oh, I hope nobody said that. I hope or at least nobody heard that you said that, because I think that was a bad thing to say. But, it's early days, and she has another Wicked coming up, so I think that'll help her. But I think that Ariana Grande is very well poised with her career. Big hit. I think clearly she is the secret ingredient in Wicked. I think she does an incredible job. And I think, she's coming off really well right now. She is in some ways the Margot Robbie of this year's awards season. She ain't going to win anything, but yet she gets all the attention at the awards shows. Hey, Not Modern Art History. Yeah, people were talking about how the camera kept cutting to her at Critics' Choice, and people were making fun of her, and she was the focus of so much stuff. But yet she wasn't winning anything. But they were more than happy, of course, to make money off of her being there because she drives a lot of engagement. So good for you, Ariana. Good for you. All right. So, I agree with Tribble Disco. The nom is the win. Ariana Grande, Oscar-nominated actress, is pretty freaking incredible, and I must say, deserved. But she's at a point where she could cement herself to be very successful. So that's really exciting. And so she has to pick her next project very carefully. And I bet you she does not announce it until after the Oscars. I think they don't want to jinx the Oscars or Wicked Part 2. So I think she's being very careful. Now, Jennifer Lawrence's career. Don't tie yourself to Jennifer Lawrence. Her career is not going well. And by the way, Jennifer Lawrence, I probably would have told her not to tie herself to Amy Schumer. I would have been like, I'm glad you guys are friends, but, that's like the frickin' Hindenburg, man. I liked No Hard Feelings as well. I thought that was a great movie, and I thought I really had a lot of respect for Jennifer Lawrence for being willing to go there in it. However, her movies are not doing well. Jennifer Lawrence does not perform well these days. She doesn't perform well from a critic perspective or from a box office perspective. So I think that I would be worried if I were Ariana Grande about potentially having to have the fallout of that. So I would say Jennifer Lawrence does not have her career at a point right now. And you already survived Cynthia Erivo. Everybody magically forgot all the Cynthia Erivo controversy. And Cynthia Erivo tried her hardest to do it again with those poster comments. But everybody moved past it and moved away from it. And so that was like, whoo, what luck. So I'd be like, don't press your luck again. Jennifer Lawrence was a little bit too aggressive in some of her comments. And also, that's right, Notibus. Thank you for bringing that up. The Mystique situation really hurt Jennifer Lawrence as well. She should have quit being Mystique if she wasn't comfortable playing the role, because it just caused tremendous damage to her career, because people were like, you're ruining something we love. It was really bad. All right, so CM says, what if it had a women LGBT-friendly cast like Nicole Kidman, Selma Hayek? Some of your choices are good. Like, Nicole Kidman's actually a pretty good person for Ariana Grande to team up with. But I think you're going a little too camp with the rest of your choices. Ariana Grande is like, the people you're naming there are for Emma Roberts to work with, not Ariana Grande. Peng says, what about a My Fair Lady modern remake? But everybody's remade My Fair Lady in many different ways, at different levels, it's tough. So the movie that's in question here is an A24 Real Housewives style mystery. A24, which of course certainly has its fans, wants to do a mystery. Like, I think it's a murder mystery, a Real Housewives show. And it would, be a movie. But here's my first comment on that. As you can clearly see, Real Housewives, the women skew older. Real Housewives is not a 20-something or even 30-something cast. It tends to be actresses and celebrities who either never made it or are trying for a comeback. And so you could put Nicole Kidman on that show, but you can't put, you could put Nicole Kidman, Jamie Lee Curtis, you could put much older actresses, but I think that, it will not seem like a Real Housewives show. That's a big problem with what they're doing. So I'd be like, you're not going to be able to capitalize on the brand because you don't seem like Catherine Hahn. That's right, Wanda's attorney. Catherine Hahn could do that. That'd be great. But yeah, I think that they're casting, I think they're casting really not right. But then what's interesting to me, though, is what I'm kind of seeing from the Ariana Grande situation is that maybe Ariana Grande is looking for safety in ensemble casts. Now, we've discussed this before. Ensemble casts really spread out the blame. Oh, Demi Moore would be great for that. You're right. If I were A24, I'd be talking to Demi Moore for sure. That's a great idea. But I think A24's fandom skews younger. So they actually should not make this movie. This movie is not a fit for them. But anyway, ensemble casts are really great. For instance, back in the day, Tobey Maguire was able to become Spider-Man because even though every movie he'd been in was a flop, up until that point, they were all ensemble casts, and he was never the lead. So he just got good reviews. Everybody was like, oh, look at that talented young man in that flop of a film. And that's how he got Spider-Man. So it's very safe to be an ensemble cast. Like Wicked protected Ariana Grande, and she was able to do all of her interviews with Cynthia Erivo. So maybe there's a part of her that feels she could go around and do all of her interviews with Jennifer Lawrence, and she could be her new best buddy, and they could go all around together. But you can never repeat yourself. You'll never be as good, and she'll never be able to recreate the magic. Hey, thank you, Lisa. It's so nice to see you. She'll never be able to recreate the magic of the Cynthia Erivo press tour. I mean, I'm nervous about round 2, quite frankly. So I would not say, hey, maybe I could do this with Jennifer Lawrence. I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, Ariana Grande, but you're going to have to venture out on your own. That's what I think would be really important for her. Brother Quantum says J-Law needs to team up with Bradley Cooper again. I don't know. Nobody likes Bradley Cooper anymore either. Garnet Fire says if we're doing a Real Housewives murder mystery, use the Real Housewives cast. Well, I think you guys had some really good casting choices, actually. Pam Grier, I saw somebody brought up. Those are good choices. Yeah, nobody likes Bradley Cooper anymore. I mean, I'd stay away from him as well. He just got too desperate with Maestro. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this? Wanda's attorney says, make the Audrey Hepburn bio. I would agree with that. I think that would be really wonderful for her. Adil, I don't know if Ariana Grande is going to go on tour again, especially since she said she wants to stop playing the character that is a pop star. Zachary says, J-Law burned fast and bright. She made her millions and got the Oscar way too soon in her career and became resentful of the roles that made... Oh, that's true. That's true, Zachary. That's true. There was a lot of resentment. Remember, it was not only towards Mystique, but she became very resentful of Hunger Games as well. Although now she said she'd come back. I'll bet she would. Yeah, you got to be really careful. And you got to be really careful about being overexposed. Margot Robbie, for instance, has taken a whole year off, which I think is very smart on her part. Thanks for joining, Notibus. That means a lot. Jen says, Grace, I think a Splendor in the Grass remake is needed. Oh, I just recorded that. Turner Classic Movies. I always go through and record movies to watch or rewatch, to have them like just banked on I still have cable, on my DVR, and I just taped Splendor in the Grass. And I've seen Imitation in Life so many times. It's so good. Both versions. Both with Claudette Colbert and then also the Douglas Sirk one with Lana Turner. Amazing. Amazing. I think maybe you could remake that, but I think you'd have to maybe change it to be from the perspective of the black mother and daughter. That's actually not a bad idea. If I were the agent of a director or a writer, I'd be like, why don't you kick that around and see if you can come up with something? Mr. Magic says, should Ariana make a comedy? She is very funny. I think she's very comedic. That's right, Creme Brulee. Margot Robbie also started her family, which I think is really nice. Seiko says, why does everyone want Ariana to do an Audrey Hepburn bio next? Lady Gaga's second movie was a bio and that didn't work out too well for her. It's tricky. It's very hard. It might not work. But I think she looks so much like Audrey Hepburn, and that's so rare. Ricardo, that's such a sweet thing to say. Thank you. Rodney Dollar, House of Gucci I thought was pretty good until they benched Lady Gaga in it for the third act. Gaga stan, I think Abracadabra is okay. It sounds like every other Lady Gaga song she's ever made, to be honest with you. Oh, I'm sorry. But I've said that about Taylor Swift too. Remember she released an album and I said every single song sounds the same? I can only say what I think. Dory, I think Ariana Grande and Little Shop of Horrors is maybe a little bit too on the nose, but I can see where you're coming from. Dancing Dog 60 points out that J-Lo was so great in Winter's Bone, and to think that the studio wanted Miley Cyrus for that role. Yeah, it is funny how things work out, and good for Jennifer Lawrence. She worked very hard to get that role. Popcorn Roulette, that's a good memory. Ariana Grande was in Don't Look Up in a very small role. That's funny. Thank you, Vitor. All right, I think we're ready to go to the Q&A section for 10 minutes. All righty. All right, it's 5:50, so that's easy. It's 6 o'clock. We'll go till 6 o'clock. Oh, Imran, you agree with me on the Lady Gaga song? Thank you. Deshaun says, Team Baldoni so far, but I'm stoked for another simple favor. Do you think they should reschedule the streaming release due to the legal battles? No, I think there's no better time than now to release that film when everybody wants to hate on Blake Lively. Brett says, are you going to review Paddington 3? No, I don't think I'm going to. I just, I'm trying to some topics are just too small, and I'm afraid that's one of them. It's a charming film. Sometimes there are some things there's just nothing to say about. You're like, yeah, it's fun. Same with White Lotus, I think that I don't know how interested people are in reviews of shows anymore. I think people are more interested in episode breakdowns. But I don't know if White Lotus is that kind of show. Also, White Lotus has something in it that I think is so offensive that, it's almost impossible to talk about the show until you guys get to episode 5 and 6. Apricot Warriors says, hey Grace, we need a new franchise like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars level. Oh, that would be great if we could find a new franchise. I hope that Sinners was supposed to be I just think all of us are left scratching our head trying to figure out how on earth Sinners is a big movie. I'm not saying it's not a good movie, but how it's supposed to be a franchise. But I'm excited to see it. Notibus, I am looking forward to July. I think at the very least it'll be interesting. Thank you, Nicholas. I'm glad you feel that I am honest and professional. I try very hard. MM92 says, Grace, what are your thoughts about how do you organize your thoughts after watching a movie? Are you frantically jotting down notes? No, I just watch the movie, and then I will take a couple of notes right afterwards, and then I write out my script for my video eventually, but I like to mull it over a little bit. Like after Cap yesterday, I went and got myself a little Mickey D's lunch, thought about the movie a little bit. Brian wants a video about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Let's see how that progresses. I've already talked about it, and I think the whole thing is a giant mistake. And in that regard, I got to be careful, not to get involved in the mistake, because I don't want it to be my mistake as well. Jesus says, how do you prepare for these streams? Well, it's a similar thing. I make up my chapter times. I come up with notes for when I want to discuss. Iron, I am excited for SNL 50, although I hope it's just not a clip show and stuff like that, but I'll probably tune into it. Let's see here. Travis says, hey Grace, not a question, but I was in London last week and I thought of you. My hotel was next to Hitchcock's home in Kensington, where he lived from 1926 to 1939. Wow, I didn't get to go there. Oh, that's so cool. Next time, I'll have to go there next time. I'm sure you had a great time. Isn't London wonderful? TJ says, what is the best movie theater snack for Cap 4? I think you got to go old school and get the popcorn. It's an all-American movie, and I think a popcorn and a soda is a good way to go. Hey, Cozy Clay. Let's see here. Bye, Thomas. I think that White Lotus, as I tweeted, is weak. White Lotus Season 3 is weak. It's the weakest of the three. It's very slow in its pacing. Not a lot happens. But the resort is gorgeous. It's another real Four Seasons resort, this time in Thailand. Who just gifted all those memberships? Thank you, Gareth. But there's something that happens in episode 5 and is explored further in episode 6, and then I didn't get the last 2 episodes. They only released 1 through 6. Was just so offensive, and you're all hurtling towards it, and I can't say anything. Max says, hey Grace, my family watched It's a Mad, 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 Mad World last night. Considering the state of family comedy in the economy, what do you think about a remake? I've never seen that movie, but maybe I'll check it out. I'm glad you and your family enjoyed it. For those of you saying Ariana Grande for Knives Out 3, that's not bad. David Benjamin says, would Ariana Grande would be a good choice for another Knives Out? I think that would be good for her. I would recommend that. And let's see if they make a 4th one, but I think she'd be good for that. Let's see here. Marky Mark says, I still haven't watched Severance or Unbreakable. Seems like TV has the opposite problem of movies. They don't come out often enough. Well, I think because of the pandemic, that delayed a lot of second seasons and stuff like that. But yeah. Nathan Gonzalez says, what is AMC A-List? It's AMC's subscription program. And for a certain amount of money per month, based on where you live, you get to see 3 movies a week, up to 3 movies a week at no extra cost. And it's an incredible deal. Square One says, thoughts on Michael B. Jordan's comments about willing to work with Jonathan Majors again? I think that was incredibly generous and kind of him. I don't know how I feel about Jonathan Majors. I'm not quite sure. I think that was a very difficult situation. But if he is going to make his way back, that was a crucial endorsement. And so let's keep an eye on that. That's how I feel about it. Noah says, do you have any advice for someone who wants to write and direct animated films? Well, obviously you have to go to school for it. That would obviously be helpful because not only will you learn, but you'll make connections, things like that. I would suggest an internship if possible at a studio. And then I would take a look at other short animated films or animated films that have done well. And you really should take a look at other people who work in the craft and how they have gotten to where they are today. I think a lot of animation directors start out like as storyboard artists and stuff like that at animation studios, and then work their way up to directing. And so that's a big part of it. Although you can take a look and see how Flow came together. That was an independent animated movie. Besponge said, recently an upcoming movie from Universal, Golden, has been shelved. It got the Batgirl treatment. However, it was a decision made by the creatives. Well, at least by the director. The director did weigh in on it and said he didn't want the movie released. You know, it used to be that you would take your name off of something and be, you know, that's where Alan Smithy comes from. You know, if the director didn't want to be associated with a film anymore, that's why it would be called an Alan Smithy film, because that was the fake name if a director no director wanted their name on it. But obviously you can't do that anymore because everybody knows. And the social media, you know, information travels much more quickly and much further. And so you can't take your name off of it. And so I think they just felt it would be too damaging to everybody involved. I'm surprised. I don't see how the film could be that bad. And there's a lot of bad movies that are released every month. So I'm not sure why Hollywood suddenly has this thing where they're like, whoa, this is too bad to be released. But yet that isn't. So I wonder what the thought process was behind that. I mean, I guess maybe they don't want to spend any money on advertising, but you could always at least throw it on your streaming service. Mashed, you're saying you love how beautiful The White Lotus is shot. You're going to love season 3. It is by far and away the most beautiful of the seasons. Jacob, I did see the potential Dumbledore casting, and we will talk about that tomorrow. Tomorrow's live stream is going to be earlier in the day because in the afternoon I need to put out my spoiler review. So we're going to flip it around, and I need stories for tomorrow morning. And it's going to be early in the day, so I hope there are a couple other things to cover, but that's going to be one of them. Wyatt, I've never done 4DX. I have some friends who've done it, and they really liked it. They used 4DX for Venom, and they had a great time being thrown all over the place. Let's see here. David says, do you feel that DC is in a dry spell where even the comics are just not hitting the mark? Yeah, I think that's really a great point, David. I read comic books still. It's hard to do these days, though. I think that a lot of Marvel and DC comics are not good, which is really sad. However, I will say these new Absolute comics are not bad, particularly Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman hits hard. And I think Absolute Superman has some interesting ideas. Absolute Wonder Woman is basically Wanda, Scarlet Witch, which I'm a little annoyed about. But I think those are some interesting comics. So there's still some good comics out there. I think that the corporate suits have gotten too involved in the comic book space, and they've sucked out all the creativity. And the stories just aren't as good anymore. Connor, I read Saga from Image Comics. Hey, Timothy Austin, I'm so glad you made it. Carrot, nobody knows how AMC A-List makes money, and we're all afraid to ask because we don't want to lose out on this incredible service. Philippe, I'm so glad. Thank you. That's such a sweet thing for you to say. Leo saw Wicked in 4DX 5 times with 3D. Oh, talk about an immersive experience. I love it. All right, that's right. It is besponged. It is 6 o'clock. I got to get going. Let me say hi to some people. Let me just say hi, particularly because it's a subscriber stream. That's right, Ricardo. Shout out time. And I'm going to focus on people who are not members because they can't always get a shout out. So members, I see you, but you can get a shout out 3 times a week. All right. Let's see. So far, all members. Oh, hey, Mandito. Let's see here. Bye, Andrew B. Hi, Jay Pereira. Idiotic Genius. Hello. Antonio Lorenzo. Aaron Callow from Trinidad. Zeppelin 4790 is at the laundromat. I love that. I love the context. Frank Brown's in Edinburgh. Hey, Jay Bird. Hey, Albert. Lou Frazier. It's so nice to talk to you. Braun 1985. Hello. Hey, ZD. Hey, Denny B. Jane Sanders. Thank you. I'm so glad you like the channel. Luca from Croatia. Verona from Puerto Rico. Wolf Studs, bye, see ya, hi. Annie Lang, hi. Look at all these new people. I get to know the members so well. So it's so fun to talk to some new people here as well, just to get to say hi. Hey, Saturn. Hey, Spencer LaFontaine. Flash. Thank you. Square Biz in Chicago there. Frankie Stewart. Hey, Frankie Stewart. Luke Busby. Hey. I'm not sure who has the serum, Luke Busby. We got to find some serum for poor Cap. Hey, Mo Money One in Chicago. Ayers. Hey, hi, how you doing? Hey, Harsh Desai. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. Look at all the hearts you guys have given. Heart right back to you. 13 Living It in Toronto. Hello. Caroline Lee. Hi. Eric Gomez. Moonlight Bay. I'm glad you like my cheetah shirt. Let's see here. Missy, not a member yet, but I'm really happy to hear from you. Hey, Rufus. Hey, Mr. Kobe. Kai. I like the heart there. Christian Vandam and Los Mochis. Hey, SMR Rune. I'm glad you just made it. V. Thank you, Sosha Bun. C Black. You guys are great. And then, let's see, Javier Fernandez. Yes, thank you, Javier Fernandez. Please like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Let's see here. Alexandros in Athens, Greece. Cool Deep. Hey, hi, how are you? Justina. Hi, Justina. Benjamin Radish in Madison, Wisconsin. You have a great day too, Icarus. Hi, Jonathan Manzo. And Luke 2 Travell. I love your guys' use of emojis. Hey, Uncle Baby Billy. Long time no see. Hi, Paulina in Ireland and Nathan in Yorkshire. All right, I better get going. I loved talking to all of you as always. Tomorrow's stream will be earlier in the day. Then I'll have my spoiler review going up and then more coverage on Valentine's Day. And there will be a Valentine's Day stream. So see you soon. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.